In 1505, Hieronymus Bosch painted something he should not have been able to paint, not because it required an impossible technique, nor because the subject was forbidden, but because what appears at the top of this panel, that tunnel of light opening in the darkness with two figures waiting at the far end, would not be described by any human being until nearly 5 centuries later. Today, when someone has a near-death experience and doctors ask them what they saw, the answer repeats itself with a consistency that science has still not been able to fully explain. Millions of people claim to have seen a tunnel surrounded by darkness, a white light at the end, and someone waiting for them there. And although talking about this light at the end of the tunnel feels completely normal to us today, Bosch painted it more than 500 years ago. What makes this so remarkable is that he painted it without having had any near-death experience himself. He was not influenced by the thousands of documented testimonies we have access to today. Bosch painted this from imagination, or from faith, or from something we still do not know how to name, and that is the question we are going to try to answer today. Not just what this painting means, but how it is possible that it exists at all. The work is part of a polyptych of 4 panels known as Visions of the Hereafter, painted between 1505 and 1515, and today held at the Galleria dell'Accademia in Venice. The 4 panels together tell the story of what happens to the soul after death. 2 of them follow those who chose the wrong path, showing first their fall into the abyss and then the eternal torment that awaits them. The other 2 follow a very different journey, one that moves through earthly paradise and leads, finally, to this panel, to the moment the blessed souls begin their ascent toward the light. In other words, while Bosch was painting the garden of earthly delights, the demons, and the most terrifying vision of hell we have ever seen, he was also painting this, the other side of his universe, and remarkably, the only panel in his entire body of work where the destiny of the human being does not end in torment, but in peace. If we look carefully at the composition, the first thing we notice is how it is built around 2 completely distinct halves. The lower half is dark. Naked souls float in a shapeless, murky space, accompanied by angels who hold them with such gentleness that they seem almost afraid to let go. The angels wear robes of subtle color, red, blue, green, but everything else remains dim and muted. There is no recognizable landscape, no ground beneath their feet, not even a horizon to orient ourselves by. And yet, despite floating in the middle of nothing, none of them seem afraid. The souls are completely naked, with no distinction of gender and no marks of identity. It is as if everything that defines us on earth has simply dissolved upon arrival. In medieval Christian symbolism, this was a way of representing absolute equality before God. In heaven, no one is man or woman, rich or poor. We are all simply soul. But what truly dominates the painting, what makes it impossible to look away, is what Bosch placed at the top. At the top of the panel, there is a tunnel, a perfectly circular tunnel that opens in the darkness, and at the far end, a white light of such intensity that it swallows everything around it. What draws my attention so strongly to this image is the way that light actually works. Bosch does not paint it as the golden radiance we typically associate with the divine in medieval art. On the contrary, it is a cold light, almost clinical, that grows more intense the closer we get to the center, and curiously, the darkness surrounding the tunnel seems to grow even denser in the moment just before the light erupts. At the end closest to the viewer, an angel holds a soul and appears to be guiding it into the tunnel, and at the far end, very far in the distance, 2 figures wait. We cannot make out their faces clearly, but if we look for a moment, they seem to be waving, or perhaps simply watching, contemplating the arrival of the soul they are about to receive. But to understand why this image is truly a testament to the genius of Hieronymus Bosch, we need to know the historical moment in which it was painted. In the late 15th and early 16th centuries, Europe lived under a collective obsession with the end of the world. Sermons, devotional texts, and religious images insisted relentlessly on the final judgment, damnation, and eternal torment. For the people of that time, hell was not a religious metaphor, but a spiritual reality as concrete as death itself. In that context, this panel was not simply a decorative image, it was a promise, painted for ordinary people by one of the most brilliant and talented minds of his era. They would have read this image as a visual confirmation that beyond the pain, the corruption, and the sin, there was also light at the end of the tunnel, and salvation waiting on the other side. And it is precisely there that this painting becomes, at once, its most unsettling and its most beautiful. 500 years before modern medicine existed, and long before anyone had ever documented what happens in the moments closest to death, Hieronymus Bosch painted exactly what countless people who have come close to dying describe when they try to explain what they saw. The tunnel, the darkness surrounding the light, the sensation of moving upward, and the figures waiting on the other side. We do not actually know whether Bosch ever had an experience like this himself, nor do we know what led him to construct this image in this exact way, but what we do know is that 500 years later, this image feels more relevant than ever. Thank you for watching the video until the end. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments about how you think Bosch was inspired to paint this. Could it have been a near-death experience that was never documented? Or did he simply have an imagination so far ahead of his time that he managed to represent something humanity would not be able to verify until 5 centuries later? I will be reading every comment. If you would like to have this work in your collection, you can purchase it through the link in the description. There you will find more than 800 carefully selected works so you can begin your own art collection. Shipping is completely free, and with your purchase, you help me enormously to keep creating videos like this every week. See you in the next video.